Hey everyone! So today we will be basically talking about introduction to MVC and Laravel framework, and along the way we will get into details with introduction to Composer, setting up Laravel, routing, working with Laravel MVC, Liquid ORM, and Laravel security. So first of all, what is MVC framework? MVC stands for Model View Controller, and it is an architectural pattern that separates an application into three main logical components, namely the model, the view, and the controller. Each of these components are built to handle specific development aspects of an application. MVC is one of the most frequently used industry standard web development framework to create scalable and extensible projects. So first of all is the model. The model component corresponds to all the data-related logic that the user works with. This can represent either the data that is being transferred between the view and the controller components or any other business logic-related data. For example, a customer object will retrieve customer information from the database, and it manipulates it and updates it back to the database or use it to render another data. Next is the view. The view component is used for all the UI logic of the application. For example, the customer view will include all the UI components such as text boxes, drop-downs, and etc. that the final user interacts with. Basically, the view is muna siyang kakita sa end user. And the controller. Controllers act as an interface between model and view components to process all the business logic and incoming requests, manipulate data using the model component, and interact with the views to render the final output. Take for example, the customer controller will handle all the interactions and inputs from the customer view and update the database using the customer model. The same controller will be used to view the customer data. Okay, so now let us take a look at how the execution of an MVC application takes place when there is a certain request from a client. So this is the following diagram. Supposing that a browser sends a request to an MVC application. So that incoming request will be directed to the controller. The controller processes that request and forms a data model. So this process model is then passed to the appropriate view, and the view renders the output. Now we should take note that the model and the view don't directly interact with each other. Maagi pa sila sa controller. Here is another illustration of the MVC diagram. So we should take note that the goal of the MVC is to split large applications into specific sections. Another example is a user is requesting a specific page from a server. Based on the URL the user is requesting, the server will send all the request information to a specific controller. So kanaling controller is responsible to handle all the requests of the client, and it will tell the rest of the server what to do with the request. It basically serves as a middleman between the model and the view because, like I said, directly interact ang model and view. Gaagi pa sila sa controller. So the first thing that happens when the controller receives a request is that it asks the model for information based on the request. The model is responsible for the data logic of a request. Meaning the model interacts with the database and handles all validation, saving, updating, deleting, or etc. The model never has to worry about handling user requests and what to do because all that is handled by the controller na, and the model only cares about interacting with the data. After the model sends its response back to the controller then needs to interact with the view to render the data to the user. The view is only concerned with how to present the information the controller sends it. The view does not handle the final presentation of data. Instead, it only cares about how to present it. The view will send its final presentation back to the controller, and the controller will handle the sending of the presentation back to the user. So moving on, introduction to Composer. Since its release on March 1st, 2020, Composer has gained widespread popularity for bringing something to PHP which was sorely needed: dependency management. So before moving on, what is dependency management? Dependency management is the process of automating the installation, updating, configuration, and deletion of libraries, packages, and tools that an application depends on, instead of just manually doing it. So a composer is essentially a way to pull in all the third-party software such as CSS frameworks, jQuery plugins, and others into our project. It is basically a package manager for PHP. It allows us to declare the libraries on our project that depends on it, and will manage them for us. So next is to start using Composer in our project. All we need is a composer.json file. This file describes the dependencies of our project and may contain other metadata as well. So when we have successfully installed our Composer, we have here our list of available commands, but we won't be dealing each of those. Kaya taas-taas na siya. So to start off is the required key. The first and often only thing we specify in composer.json is the required key. You are telling Composer which packages your project depends on, as shown here in our example. So as we can see, the require takes an object that maps package names, in this case kaning monologue muna siya atong package name, to version constraint, which is kaning 1.0. So package names. The package name consists of a vendor name and the project's name. Often this will be identical. The vendor name only exists to prevent naming clashes. For example, it would allow two different people to create a library named JSON. Package version constraints. In our example, we are requesting the modeled package with the version constraint 1.0. This means any version in the 1.0 development branch, or any version that is greater than or equal to 1 and less than 1.1. Next is installing dependencies. To install the defined dependencies for our project, we need to run the install command. Muna siya, php composer.bar install. And after we have installed our dependencies, we can update them to their latest versions if needed. However, the composer.log file prevents us from automatically getting the latest versions of our dependencies. Now, to update to the latest versions, we need to use the update command. This will fetch the latest matching versions and update the log file with the new versions, as shown in our example. And packages. Packages is the main Composer repository. A Composer repository is basically a package source, a place where we can get packages from. Packages aims to be the central repository that everybody uses. This means that we can automatically require any package that is available there, without further specifying where Composer should look for the package. We can use show -- platform to get a list of our locally available platform packages. And lastly, autoloading. For libraries that specify autoload information, Composer generates a vendor or autoload.php file. We can include this file and start using the classes that those libraries provide without any extra work. Here, as shown, is our example. We can also even add our own code to the autoloader by adding an autoload field to composer.json. And after mag-add ng own code, we need to run the autoload field. we need to run this command, php composer.for dump-autoload. This command will regenerate the vendor/autoload.php file.
Hello guys, I'm Rachelle Rendaje, your host for this topic, and I'm going to be talking to you about how to install and set up Laravel. We will be talking about the following topics: Laravel's documentation and its Laracast, installing Composer, and Laravel via Command Edit project and its server requirements. Lastly, how to open it. There are two ways to open it: via command prompt and XAMPP. When you go to the Laravel's website, laravel.com, you can find the button in the homepage which says Documentation and Watch Laracast. In the documentation, you can see informations about Laravel. Some may find it boring or tiring to read, but it's still much needed to read the documentation because all the basic questions you have in mind about Laravel is already there. But if you have questions about Laravel, especially on its tips and tricks, you can go to its Laracast. Laracast is a webcast learning website for web development. Laracast is one of the best ways to learn how to program and develop websites with Laravel from scratch. It has a huge community to ask questions if you can't understand something. The courses are easy to understand and has a strong and good voice. The only downside to Laracast is that some of their beginners courses are paid. In installing Laravel, you first need to install Composer. Composer is a tool for dependency management in PHP. It allows you to declare the libraries your project depends on, and it will help manage them for you. It helps us also in installing, updating various requirements or components for our apps such as Laravel Framework, Doctrine, I-, and many more. And in our case, we can use it in Laravel. After installing Composer, we then proceed to install Laravel. First, we need to find the folder XAMPP. Go to htdocs folder. After that, we then make a folder Laravel inside of it. We then open the command prompt. And to make sure whether Composer is installed in your laptop, you will then type in the command prompt Composer. Then, this text will appear. The directory of the file and then type cd and paste the text you copied. Go to the Laravel website and copy the text in via Composer project. Replace the directory Laravel and then the file will be downloaded. whether Laravel is downloaded, go to the file you created, and you will see Laravel and its components. You can check the server requirements of Laravel in its website. You should ensure that your web server has the minimum PHP version of 7.3 and above, and other extensions. In opening Laravel in command prompt, you have to go to the Laravel directory using cd laravel. Then, type php artisan serve and then copy the text shown on screen. In opening the Laravel using XAMPP, watch the screen.
Routing in Laravel. One of the coolest features in Laravel framework is its routing feature. Routing is the ability to map URL requests to specific routes. It is simply a way of creating a request URL of your application. In Laravel, all requests are mapped with the help of routes. Basic routing routes the request to the associated controllers. Routing in Laravel includes the following categories: basic routing, route parameters, named routes. Basic routes. All the routes in a Laravel application are registered within routes/web.php file. When you set up a Laravel project with the Laravel new app command, the major app directory contains a routes, the subdirectory which contains the web.php file, where the routes are defined. Initially, the web.php file should look like this. The code snippet above tells the browser to return the welcome view when the default URL is entered. The views are found in the resources/views directory. In this case, the request maps to resources/views/welcome.blade.php file. The most common pattern of defining routes is to attach the specified route to the associated controller, which handles all of the action taking place within the route. For example, so this associates the /user with the user controller at index controller. The URI or the uniform resource identifier in this case in the /user, while the corresponding callback function is the user controller at index controller. So next is redirect routes. There are different methods that Laravel provides on the route facade. One of them is the redirect method. As the method name implies, this method is useful when you are defining a URI that redirects to another route. Here is how it is. This means that if you try accessing the user route, you will be redirected to the admin route. So next, under basic routes, is view routes. This method is only useful when your route only returns a view. The view method accepts 2 required arguments and 1 optional argument. The first is the URI you are targeting, and the second one is the name of the view that you want to display. Please take a look at this code. Let's proceed to the next category, route parameters. Route parameters are named URL segments that are used to capture the values specified at their position in the URL. There are two ways of defining route parameters in Laravel. They are required parameters. As the name implies, these are parameters that should be compulsorily captured for routing the web application. For example, a user's identification number. So the next one is optional parameters. The major difference between the required parameters and the optional is the inclusion of a question mark after the parameter name in the URL. It is also important to remember to specify a default value for the parameter name in the callback function. Here is what I mean. So now let's proceed to the next category, name routes. Name routes allow a convenient way of creating routes. This is done by attaching the name method to the route definition. So take a look at this snippet code. Before we proceed to the next topic under Laravel, I want to show you an example when creating name routes with controller. So here's the example code, guys. So that's all for routing in Laravel.
Hi there. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you now the working with Laravel with MVC. So I'm just going to explain to you a simple explanation so that we can definitely get it. Okay. All right. So Laravel allows multiple of people to work on or make changes to the same table in a database because of version control. If someone wants to access the database, all they actually have to do is clone the project and run it to the migration and the information they need. Now let's say that the user wanted to order some donuts from the store, and the store website happens to run a Laravel on top of a PHP server. So now when the user types in the URL and press enter before the home page, website is shown the request meets the Laravel framework. Once Laravel recognizes the request for the home page, it will register them in a router file to process the request, and then it will load a controller. Since the donut homepage can contain many different types of data, for example today's special or the different types of donuts offered, Laravel uses eloquent model to call upon an API to help query through the database efficiently and get the information for the donuts shop homepage. After the information is gathered, the controller will load the view part of the MVC model. And then, this is where the PHP, HTML, CSS files are referenced to communicate to the web browser of what to display. After that, the user will be able to see the donut shop homepage and be ready to order some donuts. Okay, so right now I'm going to show you how to do a routing and also how does a controller works. Okay, I'm going to explain to you the two of those. Okay. Alright, so now when it comes to routing, you can just actually use this kind of format, and also you can use a return and just type hello world, and let's go to the applications that we have here, and let's do a refresh, and as you can see right now there's the word hello world that you just put in. Okay, now we can actually put it here also, the word hello. Alright, let me just copy paste this one for a moment. Okay, so after that one, if we are going to put a hash slash hello, then it will actually direct us to the hello world page of that one. It will route us. So that is actually how our routing works. We actually have also post, delete. We can use those types of format when it comes to our routing. And we can also put some HTML on this one, like this one is an H1. There we go. And then, yeah, so far when it comes to our routing, that's actually it. And now we can actually try to go to the controller. So when we are actually going to do control, we can actually use this format, PHP artisan make controller pages controller. Okay, so now I'm going to show you here the format of controller. So what we're going to do here now is that, okay, just for a moment. Okay, so we actually successfully created the controller here. So now let's actually go to the file that we have where we're going to do our controller after successfully created the controller on the command prompt. Now we can just actually go to this kind of format when it comes to a controller. And yeah, I actually don't have that knowledge yet when it comes to a controller, like setting it up, because I'm not that good yet. Okay, and yeah, also to be honest, this is just actually the part where I can definitely explain it to you, because when it comes to our Laravel, it's kind of complicated, and I'm still trying to learn some of other things when it comes to Laravel. And yeah, so far that's actually it. Okay, thank you so much.
Hello everyone. This time we're gonna discuss about Laravel security. Security is an important feature while designing web applications. It assures the user of the website that their data is secure. Laravel provides various mechanisms to secure website. First is storing password. Laravel provides a class called hash class, which provides secure bscript hashing. Make function will take a value as argument and will return the hash value. Second is authenticating users. The other main security feature in Laravel is authenticating user and perform some action. Laravel has made this task easier, and to do this we can use auth-attempt method. The auth-attempt method will take credentials as argument and will verify those credentials against the credentials stored in database and will return true if it matches or false otherwise. Third is CSRF protections or cross-site request forgery or XSS. Cross-site scripting or XSS attacks happen when attackers are able to place client-side JavaScript code in a page viewed by the other users. Remember, you should favor the double braces syntax in your blade templates and only use the double exclamatory point syntax when you are certain in its raw format. The fourth is avoiding SQL injection. SQL injection vulnerability exists when an application inserts arbitrary and unfiltered user in an SQL query. By default, Laravel will protect you against this type of attacks since both the query builder and Eloquent use PHP data objects or PDO class behind the scenes. Our first example is that consider the example of the form used to collect users' email address from a database. The form will search for an email address. For instances, is the partip@example.com. Now imagine that the SQL query is modified to select Estares from user where email equals partip@example.com or 1 equals 1. You can see that 1 equals 1 is a simple logical expression that always evaluates to be true. If it is attached to the above query with the OR condition, the query will fetch all records from the table because the select condition will evolve to be true. On our second example, consider another improvisation of the attack in which the query is modified directly to the command drop table user, and instead of the email address partip@example.com, is written, the query will look like select Estares from users where email equals pardep at example.com, drop table user. When this query is executed, the table user will be removed from the database. When the PDO parameter binding is in place, the input is in quotes and the query will look like select asterisk from user where email equals pardef at example.com or 1 equals 1. Since no records will match with either the email or the 1 equals 1, the query will not return anything. Fifth is cookies, secured by default. Laravel makes it very easy to create, read, and expire cookies with its cookie class. In Laravel, all cookies are automatically signed and encrypted. This means that if they are tampered with, Laravel will automatically discard them. This also means that you will not be able to read them from the client side using JavaScript. Lastly, forcing HTTPS when exchanging sensitive data. HTTPS prevents attackers on the same network to intercept private information such as session variables and log in as the victim. So, to keep this information safe, always deploy your web applications on HTTPS to safeguard its sensitive data. While to hide certain routes, you should use the below-defined filter which will redirect user to a secured route. Or you could simply set up SSL certificate on your website by getting little assistance from any Laravel developer who will ship your application from HTTP to HTTPS easily. Laravel is pretty secure. However, no framework could claim to be 100% secure, and there are always ways to improve the security of the Laravel apps.